Hi everyone, Angus Campbell here, Saturday the 28th of November 2020. Right, hot on the heels of publishing the last video this morning. Then we crack on with the head. And you can see I've just been having a little play, putting the covers on, simulating completion, but actually we need to take everything off because the next job is to take it all apart again so we can grind the valves in and then we can shim up properly. So a bit of work to do yet. But just a couple of things to mention on the way. The first thing is, I don't know if any of you appreciated from the last video the way that I was able to get the feeler gauges in, and that is that they provided 4 holes for checking the clearances. As you can see there, you can actually see the bucket, and also at the front here the top 2 are for checking bucket tablet clearances. The bottom 2 are for blanking plugs for the oil ways, because the oil ways in the head have to be drilled from here to go through these 2 channels and to the other cavity, and that forms the drain, the oil drain. So the 2 cavities are linked, and then they drain out this way into the cam tunnel, as I explained on an earlier video. Right, let's get the covers and everything off. Yeah, just to mention that all these 6 holes are blanked off with these plugs and washers. So it's all a bit bitty really, but it's all been designed to enable you to maintain the top end clearances, you know, without any major stripping apart. That's the term. Right, let's crack on. Right, cam's out in a minute flat, and just while we're here, before I take the tappet buckets out, then yeah, thanks Howard for the suggestion of using a stick magnet rather than a valve grinding sucker or anything like that. It came to me probably earlier today as well, but thanks for pointing that out. So we have one. There it is, out. This one's a bit tighter. Yeah, there we go, straight out. Fantastic. So yeah, as you've said, Howard, there's going to be sort of, what would you call it? Because of the amount of oil that's going to be in there, especially when it's been sat a bit as well, there's going to be a bit of what they call it, stiction, is it? But anyway, that brings them out no problem at all. But what we must remember is, you know, this one has been ground slightly on the underside, so we've got to make sure we put these back in the correct order, so we'll mark them up before we go anywhere else. Right, I'll continue to strip the valves out, and I'll bring you back once I've done that. Right, that's the valve gear stripped out and all laid out over here, as you can just see, and marked up on paper so we know which one's which. So got the old trusty grinding paste that I've had for donkey's years. It's like a split can, so I've got fine one end and coarse another. So I am just going to start with coarse, assuming I've got the lids the right way around. Yeah, because it's marked on the case as well. So I'm sure most of you have seen this before, but I like to hand grind. Some people do it via a drill from the other side. But all I'm going to do is lightly, do the old grinding, turn a quarter of a turn, grind, turn a quarter of a turn, and we'll then just have a look at it, because what we're aiming for is a slightly rough finish, but also if you spin it and then take it off, we're looking for a constant unbroken line around the mating surface of spent paste. And all we're doing, so we'll start with a bit of coarse, and all we're doing is dabbing a little tiny bit around the edge. Like so. And yet you can actually hear it. I'll put a bit more on. I mean, this isn't going to take much, because these seats have all been cut and the valves are new. So there's no pitting or anything like that to worry about, so this really should be a pretty quick job. I don't think I've really ever bothered with the fine grinding paste really, because as you can hear, once you get going with a coarse, then the coarse sort of grinds itself up anyway. Right. So we've got good contact all round, and we've got lines of spent paste all the way around as well. So clean that off. All this lot's going to get a bath in the ultrasonic cleaner once we've done this. Now you won't be able to see this too well, I don't think, but the whole of the mating surface now on the ground valve has gone matte compared to a new valve, which is shiny on the mating surface. So we've got contact all the way around. So I've just ground in the exhaust right, which is this side, so that's left, so that's from over there, right. Okay. And then if we look at the seats as well, we've got a similar story. So as I say, it's just to rough them up a little bit. I'm going to give them one more little go, and that'll be good for me. Just to roughen the seats up. The valve's fine, I think. Yep, all good. Happy with that. Yeah. That's its seats now matted up. Not much, but noticeably compared to the ungrounding seats. They're still shiny. This, when we rub it, still matte. There we go. Yeah, happy with that. I mean, obviously the engineers that put the inserted the valve seats for me had the valves, so all should be good anyway. Make sure that's cleaned up, and there we go. So again, that's right exhaust, correct, which is that one. Right, left. Anyway, you get the idea. The biggest job's going to be the tappet clearances. I'll just do finish the exhaust side, and then I'll turn you off because I'm sure this isn't that riveting. I don't know if anybody, any of you follow Michael Waller, who is a northerner. I'd like to say Yorkshireman, but I hope he's not going to be offended by that. Who has lived in America for a number of years. Britannia Motorcycles in America. He's now retired, I think, but still building bikes. And he films all his work. He's not like me. Sometimes I have fits and starts of it, where sometimes I time-lapse stuff, sometimes I do this, and then sometimes I just do a commentary and do the job in between clips. But Michael films the vast majority of his work, and is always commenting about the fact when you're doing some mundane jobs like this that he wonders why people watch, really, because it must be absolutely riveting not. So this one's beautiful as well, actually. It's not going to take much at all. Yeah. All matting up nicely. I mean, the actual contact area is, God, it's not a lot. And that's already matted up nicely, actually, all the way around. I'll just do another little bit. Centre that a bit. Beautiful. Okay, leave me to get on with the inlet valves, and then probably it's going to be a case of waiting till the morning to get the ultrasonic cleaner on, because it's now Saturday evening, about 9:30, and the ultrasonic cleaner hasn't been used for a while. It's probably empty as well, actually, so I've got to fill it, and then it's got to warm up, and sometimes it can take 2 hours to warm up. So let me get the other side, sorry, the inlet side done, and I'll bring you back, and we'll just ponder a few other things that are going on in the background with respect to preparing the bike ready for the installation of the cylinder head. Woohoo! Turn off. Right, that's the head's over here. But that's all the valves ground in, and as I say, I'll now need to give this head a good bath in the morning in the cleaner. But in the meantime, there's been some other jobs required really to get everything ready for installation. So as you saw earlier on, I was putting together all the plugs and their washers for the access holes for the feeler gauge for the valve clearances, and also for the plugs for the 2 oil drains at the front. But the other thing then is to measure up the proper right little tiny shims that we now know are correct. And the first thing I want to do is, obviously I want to measure up the thickness of these. They need a bit of a clean up first, so I'll dress them first, then measure the thickness, but also we want to measure the diameter, because of course we might need to make some others up from our sacrificial screwdriver. So the diameter is 0.308, so 30.8. Sorry, 308 thou. I'll get it in a minute. 308 thou. Right, our screwdriver is a little wider. It's about 320 thou. So about 8 thou over. The valve stems are 294 thou, but we know that the collets sit a bit prouder than that. So let's do a bit of a mock-up again. The collets aren't symmetrical either, so you've got to get them the right way around. The lower side underneath the groove is longer. So if you mock up a valve like so, make sure that's well pushed up. Then the little shim does sit in there, and there's a little bit of play as well. So we know we've got room to manoeuvre. Now then, can I try and measure that using the other end? Make sure it's zeroed properly. So we know the diameter of the shim are 308 thou. Well, there you go. The diameter of the area in between the collet lips is 330 thou. That'll be a bit less probably when it's under pressure from the spring, but even so that gives us a bit of room to manoeuvre. Try that again. Yeah, in fact a bit more than that. Probably. Now we'll go for 330 thou. So we've got 22 thou. What did we say the screwdriver was? 330. The screwdriver is about 318 thou. And indeed, the screwdriver fits in there. And actually there's some play too. So there you go. We can make some shims. Right, next thing, let me clean up, dress up these surface of these shims a bit, and we'll measure these. And that came from there. Right, I'll just turn you off again and I'll bring you back once I've got them all measured up and laid out. Right, there we are, all laid out. So on the valve sides, left inlet exhaust, right inlet exhaust, all ready. There's all the shims measured up. They need a bit more of a clean, but you can see we've got a reasonable range, just not many of them, unfortunately. So we'll have to see. But anyway, we know we can make some more. It'll be a bit of a pain to get them right, but we can do it. We've got the cutters and stuff, files, grinders. We've got all that lot, so we'll get that sorted out. Other thing pondering as well is the final piece of the jigsaw with respect to sealing the head up. So let's just go for a walk again. Now, with the head mating faces, there's no gasket. There's crush rings. There they are. Come on, focus a bit. And they sit in that groove around the liners, and they sit proud, which is correct, and they get crushed into that space. So that's easy. However, with respect to the cam chain tunnel, there's a groove for an O-ring, and as you can see, it's quite a large O-ring, which isn't even shown in the parts book, so there's no part number or anything like that. So I think I've got O-rings of the correct diameter that fit nicely in that groove, but I'm going to have to make one up from two, and we'll sort of try and vulcanise the ends on that, on the two of them together. So I might have a little play with that now. I've got plenty of these, so it doesn't matter if we mess any up. Getting to be a bit of a mess on the bench here now, but anyway, all in a good cause. So let's have a go at making that. Got the blowtorch handy on a low flame, and we should be able to do that easy enough. There you go, easy peasy. Couldn't vulcanise it in the end. I don't know what material it's made out of anyway, but it wouldn't melt together. So in the end, Loctited it, and strong as hell. And I've not had to stretch it in there; it just sits in there. So the joints are under no pressure really, and that's going to press down nicely. So I've just held it in for now with a tiny little bit of silicone, but fits a treat. And as you can see, it's proud, so it'll squash down. Excellent. Right, another job done. Call it a day now, and in the morning we'll get the ultrasonic cleaner on. In the meantime, just give the bench a bit of a clean down. See you tomorrow. Right, next morning, bath on. Been on a little while, but heating up from cold with 30 litres of fluid, actually it takes a while, 2 to 3 hours actually. Occasionally I put the ultrasonics on to circulate the fluid, and that helps. But it does seem to me that with this make of bath, which I did try and buy in Europe rather than China, then with the bigger capacities they didn't necessarily upgrade the heating elements to cope necessarily with so it's the same proportion of wattage to volume as a smaller bath. So it does take a bit of while, but it'll get there. And we'll dump the head in. We'll dump the covers in. They don't really need it, but we just want to make sure everything's spotlessly clean. We'll dump the cams in because, and before we do that, we'll make sure that the small oil ways are clear. Where are we? So just to remind you that oil is fed into the centre of the cams through the drilling in the centre and comes out of these oil holes here. And with respect to the inlet cam, oil is fed up to the head from the crankcase and the pump into this side, goes through this bearing into the cam, along, feeds these two lobes, and also the oil ways that feed into that cam through that bush there. You can just see the hole in the bottom there, goes along here into that one as well. So both cams are fed from the main bearing end, and I've got this little tiny slot. You can see it's a bit dirty, but there is a hole in there to allow the oil to go down the centre of the cams under pressure to feed each side. So we need to make sure that's spotlessly clean, so I will probably jiggle a bits of wire and stuff through there. Not a lot we can do, but I will blast some air through and WD-40 and stuff like that as well to make sure that, you know, we can get some pressure in there and see the fluid coming out, because it's ultra important. Right, we'll wait until the bath warms up and then we'll get this lot bathed. And Richard, I'll probably put your head in too, give that a clean up too. Right, that's been cooked for about first 15-minute blast. You're only supposed to give these 15-minute blasts, otherwise you might damage the ultrasonic side of it. And you can see it's just about up to temperature there. I usually get up to about above 50 or so. And we'll leave that beavering away for another 15 minutes, and that's it, job done. Before I put the cams in, I did manage to force WD through the oil ways and pressurise it enough for it to be coming out the back end of the lobe, so that's good. So we'll let that cook for its second stint, because what I do is give it one stint and then I turn everything upside down and give it another stint. And then we'll drag everything out, and then we'll put Richard's head in just for a clean up. As we've got the bath hot now, we'll just see if there's anything else that we can clean while we're at it, and then I'm going to empty it actually, because I don't think I'll need it again. Okay, out the bath, and they're looking really good. And also done a bit more cleaning up on the cams as well, and also forced through some WD. Let's see if I can demonstrate this. There you go. They're shooting out the back. Beautiful. Fantastic. Right. So I'll now put Richard's head in the bath, and then we'll just let this lot cool off, and then we'll turn the head over and think about reinstalling the valve gear, and then we can start shimming up. Right, a bit later in the day, all cooled off, ready to go. So what we'll do now is refit the valves and springs, and also what we'll do in the front of the motor is fit the oil way drain plugs as well. So we can start putting together. Okay, that's the valve gear in on both sides, but I'm going to start with the easier side, which is the inlet. And the easiest way to do this, I think, is just to choose a couple of shims to place on top of the stem, put the buckets in, and we'll measure the clearances, and then we'll be able to determine what we need to do with respect to the shim that's in there, either go up or down, and by how much. So we'll probably start pretty small. I'll need to tidy them up a bit. I've only got 172. We've got a 75 there. So we'll start with those two. I'll just check the measurements on them again. And then we'll go with that. Right, buckets in, cam in, and the clearances we're getting now is, on the right hand side here, we're getting 18 thou. So we're on the inlet side here, so this is 6 to 8 thou we need to aim at. So we need another 10 to 12 thou adding to that shim. Hold the camera in the right place might help. But on this side we've got a bit of a whopping 46 thou. So I've got shims that can probably add another 20 thou to that, but we're going to need to make some. But that's easy enough to do. So anyway, making progress, and we're going to be able to get this within tolerance. So the other side, the exhaust side on one side is going to be, well, it's not going to be much of a challenge really. We've just got to make a shim for that, but it's going to be a thin one that just enables the bucket to sit just above the rim of the collets, and then we'll just need to ground down a bit more the knob on the inside of the tappet, and if necessary ground a little bit, as Bob says, off the top of the collets as well, off the rim, but not too much because we need the shim to sit in there. But anyway, this is going to work. We've just got to be patient and go about this methodically. But we've got our first readings anyway, so I think in pretty short order we can sort this out. So firstly, next thing is take the cam out, take the buckets out, check the shims that we've got in there, thicknesses, and then we can work out what we need to increase to, and whether or not we've got one for the right hand side that will get us by to with 8 to 10 thou, and what we need to make up for the other side. Okay, bring you back shortly. Right, back next evening. Just pull the cam out, because what we want to do now is take the tappet buckets out, check the shim that's already in there, and then calculate the delta as to what we need. So in other words, we're talking about inlets here, so the gap needs to be 6 to 8 thou. So we want basically an additional 11 thou on the shim on the right hand inlet, and on the left hand inlet we want my God, a good stonking, let's see, if we put that at 9, so that's 37 thou. Well, we've got shims that go up to 20, 25 thou more than that, so there's another 12 thou. It's not going to make too much difference as long as it sits in between the collet rims. That'll be all right. But anyway, let's get these out, recheck what we had in there, and I think it was 72 thou and 74 thou. But anyway, we'll check those first, and then we can calculate, as say, what we need to put in. Right, everyone, I think we're there. I didn't film all the jiggery pokery. This cam has been in and out numerous times, as have the buckets, and I've made plenty of little shims, so we've got even a wider set now, where I missed the optimum size that I wanted on a couple of occasions, so I've got some different sizes now, so at least we're set up then to have a tack the other side, the exhaust side. But inlet's done, so I've got about 6 to 7 thou clearance on both of these, which is perfect. One of the homemade shims, I just need to want to sort of dress a little tiny bit. Well, not dress really, but harden up, just make sure it's correct, but it looks good. And the other one is the genuine article, so that's okay. So that's taken a couple of hours, actually. Maybe I'll show you a bit more when I get to the other side. Now I know what I'm doing. I've got all the right tools in place to actually make up these little discs pretty quickly as required. And now I'll just look at what I need to do to make sure these discs are hardened as well. So I'll be back tomorrow evening. See you then. Right everyone, next evening. So where are we now? Tuesday 1st of December. Yep. So this is inlet all done. And I've oiled up a bit more. I thought I felt a little bit of play in the cam, but now it's oiled up properly. It's beautiful. Fantastic. And yeah, I've had a comment about the fact that it's a little worrying that these cams didn't fit in the other head. Well, as I say, we had to do some work on these cams because they were in pretty poor state, and the machine, the head and the cams are now actually a machined match, so I'm not worried about that. And also you've got to bear in mind that during the development cycle, as we said earlier, then things changed, and we're not necessarily marrying up parts either in the motor or on the frame that are necessarily the same revision over the years of the development. So, I mean, we know that from what records I've seen anyway, we know there are, firstly the model number was P30, Project 30, but we know that there are at least revisions C and D, so that means in the early days there must have been A and B. And for instance, when I purchased the Show Fury, on the underside of the seat it was labelled P30D, whereas the development and testing notes of the last engines to be worked upon in October, was it October/November, i.e. actually after the decision was made to scrap the model, there was still some development work and testing work went on at Umberslade Hall in autumn 1971, and that was labelled as a P30C. So ultimately, I don't know, we'll probably never know. But anyway, these cams and this head have been machined to match by Bob, so I'm grateful for that, and they're going to work. So right, let's get on with it. Enough waffle in context. Turn it round onto the exhaust side. So we know this is the offending valve that's slightly recessed, so we're just going to want a shim on this side which just enables the tappet bucket to sit above the rim of the collets. On this side I think we've got plenty of room, so it'll be just a case of putting a shim in, measuring up, and then we've got a reference point then. So let's do that first. I know it's not exactly riveting this anyway, but this has been in and out multiple times, and I've been adjusting and making up the shim, so that's got a tiny 32 thou shim on that now. In fact, let me show you if I can. So the magnet trick works really well on getting the buckets out, which is great. There's a little thin shim there, which just allows the tappet bucket to contact on the shim and not on the top of the collets. In fact, there's probably 5 to 10 thou lip on that, so that's fine. And with the bucket in now, there's an 8 thou clearance, and I've still obviously got to finish off the top of these buckets as well, and I'll probably do that on an oil stone initially, so that's going to take a couple of thou off, probably 1 to 2 thou anyway, maybe a bit less, but that means then we'll be well within the 8 to 10 thou clearance for the exhaust. There she goes. It's amazing how getting these oiled up and just taking them in and out and in and out, lots of times, actually almost does a a semi-run in. There she is. That's the 8 thou. Just spread it out a bit. There she is. She's just going 8 thou under the cam. You can see now there about the fact that these access holes is to get the feeler gauges in nice and flat. So that's that one done. So next thing is to do the, this is left hand, so the left hand one, we'll start off then with, I don't know, so a smallish shim in there, standard shim, so that'll be 70 thou, and we'll see what sort of gap we get. Okay, she's all done. I've got between 6 and 8 on the inlets, and I've got 8 on one exhaust, and on the other it's about 11, which is a little on the high side, but I'm going to leave it at that, and then obviously once we've run her a bit, we'll give her another check to see how things are bedding in. But that was several hours of fun doing that, but it's worked out well actually, and the bucket's going in and out really nicely. So on to the next job, which I think is going to be fitting the oil seal in there, and then that's about the cams in, I think. Yep, okay, right, let's get that oil seal in. Right, next evening in the garage. And back on the head, where the job that we were struggling with at the end of the last clip was the oil seal that goes on the end of the cam for the points cavity, and it goes in there, but it's very tight. It does fit on, but pressing the oil seal into there and then pushing the cam through from the other side, it needs a tube inserting from this side that we can slide out. I can't remember what the name of, what you call that. What would you call that? A sleeve, probably. We need a sleeve on this side or something like that, that's the same diameter as the cam, that we can insert into the seal from this side, so we can gently ease the cam through by pushing the sleeve out, and then hopefully it will go inside there. The problem you have is that, you know, this oil seal needs spring facing in because we're keeping oil in this side, and that means then that it's more difficult to push the cam through from this side, because it's tempting to, what it is doing is pushing that inner lip out with it instead of sliding on the inside. I mean, admittedly, this oil seal is probably a little old and it's probably a little stiff, but it is still flexible and it's not cracked. Maybe what I might do, actually, I've just sort of been thinking about it, is one of the tricks you can do is put this into boiling water to soften it up a bit. Actually, that might work as well. Anyway, good ideas come into our head. So we've got that to do. When I'd had enough playing with that last night, then before I went in, I decided to at least finish something else off, and so I've put the feeler gauge aperture plugs in, 2 on each side, with fibre washers, because obviously there's an awful lot of oil. When this is going, there's a bloody awful lot of oil flowing in these rocker boxes. Well, they're not rockers really, cam boxes. We've got the cap on the end here, made a small gasket for that. It should have, well, people call them bolts, but really they're set screws here rather than Allen's, but they're UNC, and I haven't got any. I've only got UNF, probably quarter, but that's minor. We can sort that out. And then the other thing is we can go back to this side. We can obviously put the cam retaining plate in, because those cams, well, except we can't, because we need to push this cam in and out to get that damn oil seal in. But this will be next. But what I've been doing is just cleaning this up, and lo and behold, there you go. Can you see what's been revealed? Firstly, the word out, so that's this face pointing outwards. The reason being, there's a couple of timing marks. There's one, and there's the other. Now, when I timed up the Bandit, the problem that I had was that the cam chain wheels themselves, none of them were punched, which they should be. The good news is that you know, there's no official workshop manual for this. We've got a poor sort of draft of a workshop manual, but luckily for us, they did print the owner's handbook for 72, so there's a few of those around, and in that, believe it or not, they do show the cam timing, because of course this book covers the ability to shim the tappet buckets, and to do that you've got to take the cams out, so therefore you need to put them back. Now, so you've got the crank down here, and you've got the 2 cam wheels at the top there. Now, according to this, the cam wheels should have punch marks on them, and they don't. And neither did the Bandit, but I'll come to that in a minute. But you can also see that there are marks there which aren't shown to be on the retaining plate, but actually are, and they're in the right position as well. If you get the light right, there you go. They're in the right position. However, as there's no mark on the cam, well, how do you line them up, and how did you do it on the Bandit? And believe it or not, I did it by eye, because it shows you the relative position of the lobes, the front and the rear lobes, and that's how I did it. And luckily, you know, there's sufficiently few teeth on the cam wheels to identify by eye when you're a tooth out either way, and that worked on the Bandit. Believe you me, it takes a lot of checking, but you can do it. There is a timing mark on the crank, so that's good. you've got this is the pinion on the end of the crank, and then this drives the idler gear with the bottom sprocket on it to drive the cam chain. So the cam chain isn't driven directly off the crank, it's off an idler gear above it, and this is a helically cut gear here, presumably to stop noise. So there you go. So anyway, it was nice to see it. I don't remember seeing that on the Bandit at all, but nice to see it. But anyway, there is only one way round you can fit this from the point of view of top and bottom, because of the position of the mounting hole. It can only go that way on, it can't go that way on. But of course it could go this way round, and then you wouldn't be able to see your timing marks. Not that they're any use anyway, but it does mean that once I get it right, I can then punch the cams in the right place, and then hopefully it'll be easy to do the next time. So yeah, pleasant surprise, little things like that. So now we know why they put these sort of V marks here. Don't explain it very well. I don't think they do anyway. Reassembly notes. Oh my god, there you go. It talks about a timing plate. Timing marks correspond with the arrows on the timing plate, figure 11. So there's figure 11. So it's referring to a timing plate up here, but not actually showing it. So there you go. This is the retaining plate, but it's also the timing plate. Damn me. Never noticed that before. Right, live and learn. So, first things first, I'm going to have another go with this. We're going to get it done, but I'm also going to see if I've got any of others, because this is a unique part number. I mean, it might be slightly the wrong one, but it's the right outer diameter. It's a bit tight on the inner diameter, but it will fit. You can push the cams through, and the cam turns on it without, you know, shredding it, so that's fine. See if we've got any more of those for a start, and then we'll have a think about other ways of fitting it, and also maybe a sleeve that's the right size and the same diameter as the cam to put into that to act as a guide, a sleeve guide. That's the word we're looking for. Okay, let's get on with this. Enough prattling on. Right, and before we have a go at this oil seal, there's something else I've noticed as well with respect to the loan head. You notice there's another small hole, and that is to drain the oil back into the cam box that goes all the way through the bearing, or the bearing surface, because the try and up low battery there and everywhere, because I'm moving about a bit, sorry about that. Let's get a torch. And that's probably too bright. There we go. So there's the hole, but you can see that there's another lip in front of the hole, and that's because the intention is that the oil seal doesn't go flush against the back there. It leaves a small cavity between the end of the bearing surface and the oil seal, so that oil that's drawn through the bearing surface by the spiral in the cam can then dribble down and drain back into the cam box, and that takes a bit of pressure then off the oil seal. And this one hasn't got it, so we've got to drill that first. That's all I wanted to say. And there we go, job done. Pretty pleased with that. And also ensured that it's slightly sloping downwards, so therefore trying to prevent oil coming up that drain from the main cam box itself. So yeah, pretty much spot on. Right, now let's have a go at warming up this oil seal. Success! Just a lot of time and patience just to gently feed it in there with the cam there. Lots of lubrication, warming up with hot water, and then gently feeding it on with the aid of a very thin flat screwdriver so as not to damage it. And I don't know if you can see, but it is quite well set in there, but not all the way in. And then I'll put the stud on for the auto advance mounting. But there's something else that I've noticed as well, is that the end of the cam should be slotted to accept a timing pin on the on the auto advance unit. But I can't really do that until I get one, because again, a very kind Mr. Porter has had some made up. They just require finishing using the Bandit set as a pattern. I suppose I could raid the Bandit again. It beckons. We'll see. But anyway, we've made some progress again tonight. Where does the time go though? You know, another 2 hours of not really looking to achieve very much, but we've drilled that hole. I have checked the clearances again, so we're all good. Cleaned it all up, and actually now we'll put the cam retaining plate, what we call a timing plate. We'll put that in, and you might think, oh no, I've got to take this cam out again. Well, I haven't actually. I can leave one cam in, just take the inlet out. But here we go. I think. Please God say yes. It's in the wrong position. But we're nearly there. There. That's what we want. We want it there. There we go. Whew. Thank God for that. One-handed. Mounting hole lines up. Right, I'll just put that on, and then we're basically ready to test fit. Well, not test fit because we've fitted it before, but to actually put the head onto the barrels. In fact, go on, let's go and sit it on there now. Why not? Right, one empty-ish bench. Obviously, obligatory cold cup of tea. Never had time to drink that. And here it is, just loosely on. Don't be too worried about the fact that chain looks very loose, because the tensioner goes in here and pulls it up like that. So I think we'll be all right. But only time will tell when we fit the slipper tensioner, which as you can see, that mounts on there, so the chain goes a long way to the right, and then the bottom of it pivots on that, which is a spindle on the inside, so that yeah, it will do it. I was just testing it. It will do it down the bottom there, and then you can tension the chain by moving it along that slot and then clamping it with that bolt. That's how it works. And then on this run down here, there's like just a purely loose hanging slipper that, where is it? Let's have a look. Battery's going on this, so we'll see if it holds up. Here it is. Right. Here's the other Fury's seat. On the other side is this like slipper that just dangles from a spindle pivot there down, just dangles loose, and you can see it's got a pad on the other side. But obviously with the chain being tensioned, then it'll stay in position. So that's that side. So effectively you end up with that there, you end up with that there, and then there's this small one that actually sits on the inside of the cover, which keeps the chain from lashing against the cover. So effectively it's across the top like so, and there you have the three components. Looks a bit of a lash up, but apparently it was supposed to work quite well, and is similar to, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe that a similar sort of system to the chain tensioning on an AJS 7R, I think, because Jack Williams, who was involved in 7R development, ended up at Umberslade Hall working on this and other models. So maybe that's the link. Don't quote me on that, but that's something to think about anyway. Okay, right, that's another evening gone. So I'll be back in the near future, and we'll think about just doing a proper fit of this. As I say, well, we can put the head on, because in the future when we want to put the slot in the other end of the exhaust cam for the auto advance mechanism timing, we don't have to take the head off to do that. We might have to take the cam out, and then of course it'll be a pig to put it back into that oil seal. But anyway, we know we can do it. Right, let's get some shut-eye and back tomorrow. Right, hi everyone. Next night. There we go. Been having a bit more of a play. So I've now got the slipper tensioner in. And what it does is it goes all the way around there, and it actually pivots on that, which is like a spindle bolt. So the bottom has a loop on the tensioner, and then on the right hand side we've just got that hanging slipper tensioner, which just hangs off. There we go, another spindle bolt here. So that's why you can take all this lot apart without actually taking the head off, including removing the whole of the cam chain, because there is a way in which you can take the idler gear out, and the way you do that is that the idler gear spindle, that spindle there, screws out, and that's how you do it. And here you can see the other spindle there. This is the end of the crank, and that's the oil feed end, and the worm drive there is against the spindle for the oil pump, which is down here, and that worm drive as a spindle goes down there, and then up here it comes out here and drives the tacho. So that's all one spindle going down there, driven off that worm. So that's how it goes together. So that's only 10 minutes work actually. I'm pretty pleased with that. Now obviously I must not kick the engine over, because the cams aren't timed up yet, and also I've got to take the cams out again because I've got to check the hardening on the shims, the valve bucket shims. And I'm umming and ahhing, but it's got to be done, so I'm going to have a fight again with that oil seal on the other side, but that's okay. I've done it once, so I can do it again, and as it's sat in there, been sat in there for a while, it shouldn't be so difficult this time, hopefully. Right, I was just wondering what to attack next. Really, I'll probably start putting the head studs in. Now I've got a full set, so I've just got the two in at this end at the moment, but they're not screwed in yet. They go all the way down the barrel into the crankcase. But I do need to double nut those and put those in. And also, just had a horrible thought actually. The one that we left in as a placeholder is needs replacing with the proper studs, because I've got a set of high tensile studs made up of the right material and to length and to order, and they were pretty cheap. So a bit of woman and iron to do yet, but it's been stood there a long while without its head on. But yeah, coming on, so let's have a think about what I'm going to do next. Right, I've decided just to carry on doing a few bits and bobs in making sure everything fits together, because I am going to take that lot off again. I mean, it's dead easy. I don't have to take the cams out or anything like that, but I'm going to take the head off again because, well, I've got to check the fitting of that against the facings, against the crush rings, and also the O-ring under here. So I don't know what I was thinking about really, but just getting ahead of myself. So anyway, probably today's Thursday, so over the weekend we'll take it off. We'll make sure everything's sorted out on the top end, and then we'll refit it for good. But in the meantime, just for fitting purposes, then the next part is you remember me mentioning a small sort of slipper that fits in the top of the cam cover, so that this chain doesn't mash anything up. So that just slots in there, specially made for it, so that's fine. So we'll put that on in a sec. Just put the timing cover back on with its screws, and the rocker covers as well, just to get a view of where we are. And one thing I've also checked as well is that there are two head steadies that go onto lugs at the back of the head, and these are on small tubular stays that bolt up to lugs on the frame, and they both fit. So yeah, it's all looking good. So let's get a few covers on, and then we'll call it a night for tonight, as I'm a bit tired. And then I'll see how long this video is going to be with all the clips, and we might end it there, but I'll come back beforehand and let you know what's going on. Right, there you go, putting another few bits and pieces on, the covers on. Check the fitting of the points cover there, that's fine. And then just put the tank and the seat back in the position. Tank's not quite sat down properly just yet, but anyway, beginning to look complete. What we had to take off as well to get the head on is that the horn goes in here, and that should be, yeah, it's down there somewhere. And the next thing then is obviously test fit of the exhaust as well once the head's on, and the exhaust clamps at the front are held onto the head by a couple of studs on each side, a quarter UNC UNF by an inch or so. They're in unique part, but I've managed to find some on the net easily enough. They're 1 1/4 inches, but that'll be fine. Exhaust manifold studs, so they're on the way. So by the time we've got the head on properly, then we'll be able to put the exhaust on as well. Right. So I think I am going to leave it there for now. So it's Thursday night at the moment, December 3rd, 2020. And then at the weekend, we'll do a strip the head off, check everything over, check the clearances again, make sure the shims are hardened because there's a couple of homemade ones in there, and then we'll fit for the final time. And it's all getting quite exciting now. Right, thanks very much for watching, everybody. Thanks for interest, comments and subscriptions, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye bye.